Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the CoculesNation. My name is Secret Agent Nico Cocules. I'm the founder and director for Cocules Media and the CoculesNation. I know I'm back with a face cam. Things have been quieting down in terms of temperature as of late, so this is probably a good idea for me to do again. I hadn't done face cam in a long time, but that said, now I want to cover a local first setup that I talked about in episode 17 of my podcast, The Sendo Cocules Show, which I'm going to go ahead and link down below. I will be doing a visual version of that particular tutorial and going through pretty much everything you may need in order to get started with privacy because let's face it, a lot of people, and I do mean a lot of people, are not going to realize this, but this video was placed in your path of starting your privacy journey for a reason. Now, let's go ahead and get started with that. I'm going to bring up my web browser and you're going to see the service right here, Optory. This is one of the many data removal services. You can either ask to have your data removed by yourself, meaning you go ahead and manually initiate this process, or you can use a service like Optory, not sponsored, in order that you personally go ahead and do whatever is necessary to get your data removed. And since a lot of people use Google, even though Google is kind of trash now, you can go ahead and use a particular service from Google to have their stuff on you removed. You can have all the data broker stuff and whatnot removed. Or you could probably have some sort of power of attorney like Optory or any one of these data removal services, specifically removing yourself from data brokers. This is the biggest requirement you're going to need. Now, after that is done, you need to make a lot of changes, a lot of digital changes. First, your operating system. I will assume you were using either Windows or Mac. Windows and HackOS are completely garbage for your privacy. This is the most public you can go. They may be good for business computers, like if you're in the business of gaming and whatnot. And that could be fine on the Windows side. Or on Mac, it might be good for some other purposes. I'm not entirely sure. Linux can blow Windows and HackOS out of the water entirely. Not everything, but it can actually get pretty darn close for the most part. You need to use a GNU Linux operating system. In my case, I am using CashOS. Let's do a quick Archie 3, I think, or is it Archie 4? There it is. So there you go. That is CashOS. We do see the Arch Linux logo on your left-hand side of the screen. That's because of the fact that there was really no ASCII art made for CashOS yet, and I may not be able to figure out how to do that. Doesn't matter. You need to learn how to get a GNU Linux operating system installed. I have used somewhere in the realm of 4 or 5 operating systems in my time using Linux. I've been using Linux for 5 years at this point in time, since August 20th of 2025. So there's that to consider. So I know a thing or two about using these operating systems. Of course, as you can see, I'm using what we call a window manager. Think of it as using the keyboard to navigate the user interface, whereas it's something like Cinnamon, where you go ahead and basically do a point and click environment and everything is available on some sort of weird bar, like Cinnamon, which I personally use sometimes, very rarely. But I have like a kind of mangled up Cinnamon setup, as you can see on screen now. So that's the first thing you need to do. You need to learn how to set up for content creation and secure them properly. Now, I may not go into something like AppWarm or SE Linux because they are a little complex for this video. You just want the bare bones. Now, next, you're going to want a web browser. I'm going to bring up my primary web browser again, which is Firefox. You are going to want to use Firefox-based browsers only. If you want a Chromium base for some forsaken reason, you can go ahead and use Brave. I heard Vivaldi was good, however, I've determined it to be trash due to basically the source availability of it. It's not fully open source, it's some weird thing with the BSD licenses or something. That's probably what Chromium is released on. And then the Vivaldi developers make it source available, but they don't allow you to mangle the code basically. So it's kinda odd if you think about it. You'll want to use a Firefox based browser like LibreWolf. A lot of people like using LibreWolf. Another good one is Waterfox, which is now independent and has been for a little bit of time from System 1, which was a data analytics company. Not good. They're also the guys that own Startpage, I think. So that tells you something right there, doesn't it? I do use Startpage sometimes, though. But all of that, you're going to want to harden your Firefox to the nines. Now, you don't have to do as many plugins as I did on the top right hand corner of your screen. That's a lot. All you really need are uBlock Origin, libRedirect, and multi-account containers. Maybe simple login if you use an email aliasing service like a non-addy or simple login. I personally use simple login. Now, let's go ahead and get into something else. Your content creation stack. For your content creation stack, you're going to need to use a lot of local first options. What do I mean? Local first meaning you can use it primarily offline if necessary, but at the same token, you can also go ahead and use it online if it is necessary to do some online things and whatnot, like cloud saving. That is what Standard Notes is really good at. But I also use the Pakistani made NotesNook, which is also another fantastic note taking application. And I use both of them myself, though I don't use NotesNook as much as I do Standard Notes. But that has been taken over as of late by Obsidian. This is my personal whatever. This is my personal choice for a markdown editor, and I have a lot of plugins on it. I think I've showed this off before. The plugins I have are Advanced Tables, Custom Font Loader, Data View, Harper, Periodic Notes, Quick Add, Style Settings, and Templater. I don't use all the plugins, but I do use quite a few of them. And over here on the left hand side, I've gone ahead and redacted that already. You're welcome. Anyway, I will also go ahead and go. Actually, let's go into episode 17. That might help me out a lot. I went for. Here's the script of episode 17. Yes, I did pull a Jack Spirko from episode 3668 of the Survival Podcast. Here we go. PicoCrypt. And I actually have it. I actually have PicoCrypt here. This is an encryption software. You use this to encrypt pretty much any sensitive data. You encrypt that sucker. And then if you were to send it off to somebody, you could go ahead and send it off as necessary to them. We're not going to be having emails and attachments fly like it's 2010. No, these will get cataloged, these will be spied on, and these will be read by the AI algorithms to train all of these AI LLMs, such as Google Gemini if you use Gmail. Yes, you actually have opted in by default to the data collection to help Gemini get all the data necessary. This is not necessary for you. Just learn how to opt out of it. It's super simple to do. Now, we've got all that there. Veracrypt is also good if you need hidden partitions within your hard drive or whatever drive you have. Veracrypt is very good at that as well. Cryptomator is basically designed to somewhat encrypt your stuff before it goes to a cloud service like Google Drive, Dropbox, iCloud, you name it. That's basically the idea. We've got Obsidian over here as well. I've been using Obsidian for quite a long time, if you can't tell by now. We have... Here we go, local content creation. Linux I've already covered. For any Adobe stuff, let's actually go to my web browser, alternative2.net, and then look at the Adobe stuff. For example, we have Photoshop, because I know a lot of people tend to use Photoshop for their photo editing. You can see things like GIMP. However, I'm going to go ahead and just do open source and for Linux. So it'll end up being GIMP, Krita, even though that is more, it's more designed, I think, for artists, specifically those who are wanting to use something very similar to Clip Studio Paint. So there are a lot of streamers that have actually used this, at least in the past. I know of one big streamer that actually used it in the past to try something. My Paint, Last Paint, Photo GIMP. It's basically a patch for GIMP 3 for Photoshop users. Photo GIMP, that's kind of awesome. It's a simple patch for GIMP to help all Photoshop users. Organizes to mimic the position of Adobe's Photoshop. Hundreds of new fonts by default. Jeez. Alright, I may want to try and take a look at PhotoGIMP. Anyway, PhotoGIMP, that's cool. Mini Paint, Glimpse Image Editor, Pixelator, Ian, a photo editing software available on Mac, Windows, and Linux. GIMP Paint Studio, or GPS. I think it's already been discontinued. It's been discontinued since 2020. It's been archived. That makes sense. Version 2.0 is from 2015. Jeez Louise. That is insane. But GIMP Paint Studio, that's apparently decent as well. Luminous HDR, Show Photo, Dot Grid. There's a whole button of these. So there's that to consider. Inkscape, yeah, I think mentioned Inkscape in the episode. I just have GIMP for the thumbnails though. And for the artwork, I think I can actually just do SD UI, like so. This is the Stable Diffusion UI that I like to use. I'll just set that over there. We'll go ahead and up Stable Diffusion. If I can actually load this in. It's loading in now, okay. This is the Stable Diffusion Web UI by Automatic1111. I absolutely love using this. I've tried my hand at Comfy UI. Comfy UI kind of stinks for me. I don't understand squat about it. But that's what I tend to use. Go ahead and get rid of that. And then bring this back here. I don't know why that happened. Weird. Photo VO, whatever. So after that, you've got the screen recorder, which is OBS. I still use OBS because my tablet, which is being used as a webcam, is actually designed for the purposes of being just a regular old webcam with a specified app, this one, which you see on screen now. This is the app that I personally tend to use whenever I want to use my tablet as a camera. I could use my Pixel as a camera as well. I've upgraded from an iPhone 7 to a Pixel recently, though I still have my 7. I could probably install something that could work. I would like to find a free software solution though. Doesn't matter. Moving on. Premiere Pro. Ditch it. Ditch Premiere Pro. You've got options like Kdenlive. Let's do open source options for Linux. There's actually quite a few of them if you think about it. Let's do a non-linear editor. I like non-linear editing and non-destructive editing. So you've got Kdenlive and Cinderella and OpenShot. Those are pretty much the ones that are non-destructive and non-linear. Cinderella is basically for the professional non-linear video editing, whatever. It is open source, surprisingly. Apparently Cinderella is really good, but I haven't gotten a chance to really use it all that well. It's pretty old as well, too. Old software. But there's that to consider. Next. Yeah, there's Olive, but I think it's linear. I'm not entirely sure. There's DaVinci Resolve, which is proprietary junk. Firefox-based browsers have already done that for engagement. Not Twitter and Blue Sky. Twitter, they call it X now. I will still continue to call it Twitter because we're still in the Twitter 2.0 days, all things considered. Blue Sky, think of it as a somewhat decentralized form of Twitter, but it's actually extremely toxic. And it has AI moderation slop on it. Don't use Blue Sky. Just don't. I would, however, recommend you use the ActivityPub protocol, as that's probably very well federated. But if you want communities that are federated, that are similar to Discord, Matrix might be your best bet, or XMPP, but probably Matrix. I wouldn't use matrix.org because of Matthew, the admin of matrix.org home server. He's basically deactivated accounts of people who just disagreed with him on many things. Why would you do that? That's dumb. Anyway, for basically getting money for your work, if you are going to end up doing freelancing as a content creator, but you don't want to be paid by YouTube or Rumble or Twitch directly, there are options, but I think CoinDrop might be your best option because there are a lot of things that are supported. That's basically the idea here. So there's that to consider. Gaming, we've already got the gaming set up. For DAWs, I can finally use Ardor again. There was a pipewire issue where, long story short, it was pretty bad too. Basically, I was unable to place down a silly MIDI region just because of the fact that I was personally just trying to lay it down. There was a seg fault, which I think got fixed in the latest update for Ardor. I'm gonna check here real quick. I normally don't tend to do this, but I'm gonna go ahead and check what version of Ardor I'm on, which is Ardor 8.12 Sonora Portraits. Interesting. Let's just get out of here though. Yes, that is something I happen to have been working on, the Wiggles Happy Hardcore remix that I have told y'all about on not only this channel, but also my secondary channel linked below. If you do want to do some office shenanigans, I do a lot of my office stuff in Obsidian, but you can use LibreOffice. I don't have LibreOffice right now though, but that's probably your best recommendation if you want an office suite. There are some other office suites though, so let's take a look at, I guess, Microsoft Word. There it is. But there's a whole butt ton of office suites and whatnot. I guess I can do what you see is what you get support, word processing, and for Linux, obviously. Works offline. You want local first. LibreOffice Writer, OnlyOffice's Writer, AppyWord. I really did like AppyWord. I did use AppyWord a bit. AppyWord is essentially designed with Vim functionality in mind. It is discontinued, it's old. So keep that in mind. Story Architect. I've used this for a while. Solid Writing from Turkey. Quite a word processor. WebKit Word. Built with GTK4 and libadwaita, providing modern word processing. That is interesting, using WebKit, GTK4, and Adwaita. I wonder, is it made using JavaScript? Because it's WebKit. It's Python. It's a rich text editor too. Rich text. Weird. Anyway, there's that for you. Then of course I had Novel Writer and Manuscript. I used a Novel Writer for a while, but I've already gone ahead and switched over to Obsidian with a specified vault designed for writing, basically, using something called Longform. Longform is essentially a plugin that allows you to do long form writing, whether it be writing scripts for television and movies and all that type of stuff, or writing books. You could do that as well. And that's what I tend to do. But I don't need that anymore. And I think we should be good from there. I will go ahead and take a look at PhotoGimp sometime soon. I'll probably do that next week on the channel. But that said, I am out of time for today's video. I apologize for taking you too long. That said, thank you, and good night.